So for the next process in the Entrelac design, we're going to do the right side triangle, and that's actually worked completely differently than the left side triangle. But before I show you that, let me just finish up. The last video I did was a color change. And so you may choose to tuck the tails in as you go along, or you may do it all at one time at the end of your project. Whatever you do, I suggest that you do a knot in the two different yarns as soon as possible, so that at least it's holding together. And I already have a knot in here. I could do a second one if it's not going to be too big of an issue. And it depends on what yarn you're using and what you're making. So with a darning needle, you could weave it in, or you can just use a crochet hook. And you're going to just pull it through once. And then if you could do it a couple more times where it's not going to be obvious. And I would say if you have a really good knot, that if you pulled through, see, it's really not obvious, that's actually a stitch. If you pulled it through, at least had an inch buried, then I think you're good to go on that. Okay, so then going to the right side triangle, I actually picked up my 10 stitches, and I'm going to change color again. So I just did a slip knot, and I'm putting that in. And now I'm going to purl it off onto the right hand needle. And I'm going to take the first stitch of both colors. So the white and the brown, making sure I have it all. And then of course I'm going to pick up the white to knit with. So I'm going to pick up these 10 stitches. And I know there's 10. If the yarn separates a bit, it can be a tad tricky to get this little rogue thread. And again, if you feel comfortable enough picking them up with your other needle and not the double pointed, you can do it that way as well. Whatever gets the job done. And I'm always counting. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay, I've got one extra in there, that's fine. I think I added one extra at the bottom. Yeah, and I'm good. Okay, so the last time we did slip one, knit the rest. This time what we're going to do is knit 10. We're not going to slip anything. So we'll knit the 10 that I just picked up. And I don't worry about going into the brown again because I have already married those two threads together. So now I'm going to do a purl 8, and then I'm going to decrease at the end of my purl row, and I'm going to purl 2 together. And so there's the last 2. And then what's going to happen is it's going to decrease all the way down to 1 stitch. So again, I don't slip the first knit stitch like I did on the other end. And then every time I come to the last 2 on the purl side, I'm going to purl those together, and then I'll have that 1 stitch left. And that 1 stitch then will go into building the next triangle, or rectangle I should say. Because then we'll start on the right to left. So really, I mean, stitch-wise, it's really not tricky. It's just a bit tricky with the turning back and forth, but if you purl backwards, you're good. So then the next video I'll do is the right to left triangle or rectangles, and then I'll do the top closing triangles for you. And I tend to sometimes knit really tight. And one of the ways you can get around that is when you pull your needle up, if you pull it out a bit and then take it off and be really loose with your tension, then that creates a little more room in that next row for you. So if you find that you're just cramming that needle into that space and it's really difficult, you need to just lighten up the tension a bit. And if you pull that needle towards you before you take the stitch off, you'll have a little extra room the next row around. And I'm just getting caught up in the end with the double purl two together. And it's nice because that last left one, I kept turning my work, and now with this one it's just a simple step coming back and purling two together. So if I wanted to, I could have done this whole row. I could have made the left triangle and then the left to right rectangles and this triangle all one color and done it on a row by row basis. Got my yarn mixed up. Or if you do it a block, a square at a time, just use those little bobbins of pre-cut yarn. And if you're doing, I would do the pre-cut yarn if you're doing a lot of different colors and you need to color block it and kind of have it mapped out in your head. And I'm having my yarns on strike here. There we go. I'll add a little extra in there and just see if that helps for next time. A little extra in that one too. Put my theory to the test. Okay, here we go. Yep, that worked. A lot easier. Funny how that works. Okay, we're almost done. 2 more rows. 1, 2 together. Knit 2. And then 2 together. And that's it. We're done with the right side triangle. Oh, almost. And then we'll move on to the right. I can do it to the right to left. Technically that should be on here. So now we have, I'm going to actually just pull that out so we can see it. Now we have flattened out our 4 base triangles, our 3 rectangles, and the right side triangle. It needs a little blocking there. And there you go.